Hello, everyone. Welcome to London Summit 2024. Yes, please come in if you want to know about generative AI. Right. My name is Matheus Guimarães. I am a senior developer advocate for AWS. You can find me online everywhere as @codingmatheus.
And my name is Isabel Moss, and I'm a solutions architect for AWS.
So, yes, we are very excited to be here to talk to you about generative AI. What's that? Never heard of generative AI before. Yes, everybody has been talking about generative AI. However, the good news is that no matter how senior you may be or however junior you may be, generative AI is new to most people. You may have heard now during the keynote a bunch of options that you have to use generative AI at AWS. So what we're going to do is take a step back and show you more the high-level picture of all these things so that you can go ahead and explore in the generative AI track and deep dive all of these. And the potential of generative AI is incredibly exciting. So Goldman Sachs has predicted that generative AI will increase the global GDP by $7 trillion in just a 10-year period. It also has predicted that generative AI will affect 2/3 of all jobs in the US and Europe alone, and that the generative AI market will be worth $100 million, billion, not million, $billion by as soon as 2030. And if that's not enough to convince you that you should be jumping to this technological revolution, then here's one more for you. It is estimated that currently 80% of all AI research is focused on generative AI.
Yes, generative AI has taken the world by storm. And if we think about it, a bit over a year ago, this technology wasn't even a topic at all. And right now, it's all over the news. Everyone is talking about it. And this is actually mainly because of consumer applications like ChatGPT that allows so many people to experience how powerful the latest models have become. Now, the true power of generative AI will go beyond a chatbot or a search engine. It is actually already changing many aspects of how companies operate. And whether you're now a developer or maybe someone with no technical background, this technology will impact everyone in all corners of every industry. So if you're here today and you wonder, should I care about this technology? Is generative AI really something for me? Then you're likely to find out that the answer to this question is a very huge yes.
Indeed. And for some, it may seem like generative AI came out of nowhere, right? Some even dismissed it as just a hashtag hype at the beginning. However, AI is very, very old indeed. In fact, the theories of machine learning can be traced all the way back to Alan Turing, who, amongst the World War II distractions, was theorizing and illustrating his points to his colleagues at Bletchley Park, not too far from here in Milton Keynes. And that culminated into what was probably one of the earliest talks on machine learning, where Alan Turing said that he believed machines could learn from experience. And the key to do that was to allow them to alter their own instruction. Now, of course, Turing went on to develop the Turing test, which you can use to test if a machine is really intelligent or not. And he said that he thought machines would play really good chess one day. And he wasn't wrong on all accounts, because the first AI programs written was one that played checkers and one that played chess. So it all comes down to video games, which makes me very happy. And do you know where they were written? They were written right here in good old England, more specifically, Manchester, University of Manchester. Any Mancunians in the audience? Make yourself known. Yeah? Woohoo! One woohoo over there. Represent. That's it. Thank you for your contribution to science. And this was done all the way back in get this, not 60, not 70, not 80, 51. 50. So that is how old AI is. But then, how come only now it has entered the mainstream, pop culture even? What happened? Well, foundation models happened. And foundation models simplify everything, because with traditional AI, this is how it worked. You wanted to do text generation, you could, but you had to train a model for that. You wanted to create a chatbot then, you could, but you had to train yet another model for that. So effectively, you would train one model for one task. And that meant you had to spend a lot of time on data science work streams with data scientists to make the most of AI. Now, foundation models are trained on vast amounts of general knowledge. So that allows them to perform all kinds of tasks within all kinds of contexts with all kinds of purposes. Isn't it right?
Exactly, yeah. And examples of these purposes and use cases are, first of all, enhancing your customer's experience by reinventing the way they interact with your applications and your business. Think about intelligent chatbots and virtual assistants here. But also, studies indicate that generative AI can increase an employee's productivity by as much as 40% compared to employees who don't use it. So it's also worth looking into how this technology can increase efficiency and decrease those repetitive tasks so you can focus more on creative thinking and innovation. And then lastly, for the ones who are interested in optimizing business processes in general, you can consider use cases of generative AI within intelligent document processing or automating business rules engines, for example. So generative AI isn't just a new tool. It's not just a new how. It is a technology that will change industries, whether that is the healthcare industry, so increasing or improving drug discovery, or maybe something completely different like virtual try-ons in the retail industry, or improving fraud detection in financial services. It is going to impact how we interact, both in professional and personal life. But to get the most out of this technology, it's essential that any organization, so from startups to public sector to enterprises, have access to the right tools to reinvent themselves with generative AI. And that's why at AWS our goal is to democratize generative AI. So here the aim is really to provide the tools and the resources for any use case, whether you're training your own models from scratch or whether you want to directly get that benefit of generative AI with ready-to-use applications. And this is why we like to think of generative AI as having 3 separate layers that together form the generative AI stack. So the bottom layer here is all about the infrastructure. So it's about the compute and the GPUs that enable you to train your own models and deploy your own models really from scratch. Then there is the middle layer, which is an abstraction layer on top of this. And here you can make use of the pre-trained, already existing foundation models and build your own generative AI applications around those existing models and customizing them with your own data. And then there's the top layer, which is another abstraction layer on top of this, which is about the ready-to-use enterprise applications that enable you to directly get that benefit of generative AI. So let's start at the bottom.
Yes, and the bottom layer, as Isabel just mentioned, is the infrastructure layer. This is where you can find the best tools and technologies to train and your inference workloads as well. Now, just to make sure we're on the same page, training means creating fully functional models. Inference means using those models so that you get some kind of output, maybe some text, maybe an image, maybe a video. Now, but why would you want to actually train models? Well, many different reasons. Perhaps you want a fully customized foundation model out of the box with your own specific domain knowledge or your own specific business knowledge, and you don't want to create and maintain a bunch of customization workloads, so simplification of operations. Or perhaps you are an AI company like Anthropic, like Meta, like AWS, which provides foundation models to your customers. Or maybe you're a startup with a really innovative idea and you want to experiment. Either way, if you never trained a model before, it may sound like a really daunting task. It's actually quite straightforward when you get down to it. So let me give you an example. Imagine that we're going to train a machine learning model to predict when is the best time to go surfing at a particular beach. Okay. So the first thing you need to do is decide what are the things that will influence that prediction. This is surfing. So how about we take weather patterns, ocean wave patterns, and just in case, number of shark attacks, just in case, right? Now, the next thing you need to do is determine which one of these are more important. These are your parameters. So we have 3 parameters, and we're going to use that to train the model. But for example, we may not be OK with going surfing during a thunderstorm at all, but maybe we're all right running into a few sharks, because after all, they're kind of cute, so that's fine. So we're going to give a high weight to the weather patterns and a lower weight to the number of shark attacks. OK, good. We're almost there. Now what we need to do is get lots and lots and lots and lots and lots of data that represent and carry all this information that we are determining in our parameters so that the model can learn and derive patterns from it to make predictions. Okay, nearly there. Now, last part of the puzzle. You need to find a way to then host, store, and process all of this data, right? And this is when you run into very time-consuming tasks that take massive amounts of compute power. So this is when you turn to the infrastructure layer, where you're going to find all these tools, technologies, and compute power for you to run your training and inference workloads with best performance, helping you move quickly while keeping your machine learning workloads cost-effective. And while we're talking about costs, one of the biggest things that you can do to keep your costs effective when doing machine learning is running them on GPUs. And that's because during the training phase, there are lots of very advanced mathematical computations that happen. And GPUs are heavily optimized for that. Now, you can actually train your models on CPUs. However, it will be significantly slower, and you probably will run into CPU timeout errors. Now, AWS has been pioneering the availability of GPUs in the cloud for over a decade now. In 2010, we were the first ones to bring NVIDIA GPUs to the cloud with the CG1, our cluster GPU instance. Then we repeated that feat with the P3, when we're the very first ones to release the NVIDIA V100 GPUs. And more recently, we did the same thing with the P5, and we're the first major cloud provider to offer you the NVIDIA H100 GPUs. So lots of options for all kinds of training workloads, all kinds of sizes, all kinds of things. And these options actually include our own chipsets as well. Because in addition to the work that we do with NVIDIA, we realized a few years ago that we needed to innovate all the way down to the silicon, much like we did with AWS Graviton, which hopefully many of you are familiar with by now. So this is when we decided to create AWS Trainium and AWS Inferentia. And as the name implies, AWS Trainium is our chipset that is specialized for your training workloads. AWS Inferentia is our chipset that is specialized for your inference workloads. OK, great. But compute options is just one part of the puzzle. Because, of course, you need something to bring all of this together. You need tools. So that is why we have Amazon SageMaker. And SageMaker is a managed service that you developers can use to build, train, test, and deploy, and run your models and foundation models on AWS. And SageMaker is one of those services that are super exciting. Year on year on year, it keeps getting bigger and better updates and features. In the 6 years we've had SageMaker, we've put in so much cool stuff, such as, for example, automatic fine-tuning, distributed training, tools for MLOps. Yes, that is what it sounds like. DevOps for machine learning is really cool. Built-in features for responsible AI, and so much more. And if SageMaker looks like it's for the advanced folks, think again, because we got Amazon SageMaker Jumpstart, for example, which streamlines a lot of this and then allows you to have, for example, pre-trained models that you can customize if you want, but also solution templates, which allows you to deploy compute optimized for the training workload that you need without having to think about it, just by following the template. And also, it has runbooks that you can use either to play with or that you can use in your applications. So lots and lots of exciting things. Now, this gives you a quick tour of the infrastructure layer options there. I hope you are convinced that we are very committed to give you the best chipsets, advanced virtualization, even petabit scale networking capabilities if you need that, hyper cluster scaling, and so much more. But, of course, this may not be for everyone. Some of you may just want to start experimenting with foundation models, and then you want to move fast and quickly and try different use cases and test cases that are specific to your business, while, of course, keeping your data secure. So if you just want to hit the ground running, then what do they need to do, Isabel?
Yes, exactly. That's where we have the middle layer of the stack. So the middle layer, again, is all about making use of pre-trained foundation models. So models that are already out there, already very well performing, and then customizing those models with your own data and building your own generative AI applications around that. Because, as Matthäus already said, not everyone wants and needs to build or train their own models. But before diving into the middle layer of the stack, let's take a step back for a moment, because generative AI as a technology is still very much in its early days, and we sometimes tend to forget about that. And then at the same time, it's evolving very, very quickly with new models, new research, and new developments being released almost daily. So it can be a bit daunting and overwhelming to stay on top of the latest in this space. But one thing is for sure, when things are moving so fast, the ability to adapt is then a very valuable thing to have. So you want to be able to try different models and switch between them rapidly, mainly because there is not one foundation model that rules them all. Different models have different strengths for different use cases. And how we translate this vision into practice is with Amazon Bedrock. So you can see Bedrock essentially as a foundation model platform that provides access to a wide range of foundation models and large language models for many different use cases. It's also serverless, so that makes it especially easy to use because you can access these models via an API. And that means you don't need to worry about that infrastructure layer that Matthijs was just talking about. So training models, deploying models on these compute instances is not something you think about when working with Amazon Bedrock. Essentially today, Amazon Bedrock provides access to 26 different foundation models from different startups like AI21 Labs, but also Cohere, Stability AI as well. Meta is one, and they recently released their Llama 3 models, which are available on Bedrock 2. There is Mistral, who have a range of open source models like the Mistral 8x7b model, so a sparse mixture of experts model. And there's also Mistral Large, which is also available on Bedrock. Then, besides these startups, we have our own range of foundation models as well, so the Amazon Titan models. And these are models for text generation, image generation, but also embedding models. And then lastly, there is Anthropic, which is one of the AI startups we work with as well. And Anthropic is actually a long-time AWS customer, but also one of the world's leading foundation model startups. So their foundation models are the Claude models. And the Claude models are trained on a principle called constitutional AI, which makes them especially interesting, because the idea of constitutional AI is that during training, the model learns to internalize certain inviolable principles. And because of this, they're much more aligned with human values, much less likely to produce harmful outputs, and they're more friendly and human-like to converse with. Now, Anthropic also recently, a couple of weeks ago, released their newest series of models, the Claude 3 family of models. And this includes 3 new models called Haiku, that's the first one, the smallest one. Then there is Sonnet, which is the middle mode. And then there is Opus, which is the largest model. And all these models are available on Bedrock 2. And they're multimodal. Multimodality in foundation models means that they have understanding, but not only text, but also visuals in this case. So they can understand graphs, images, and charts besides the text information that you send to these models. So that opens up doors to an extra range of use cases. Now, to continue the advancement of generative AI and also safe development of AI, Amazon has invested $4 billion in Anthropic. And Anthropic will continue to use the AWS Trainium and Inferentia chips to build and deploy their upcoming Claude models. OK, so we already mentioned when introducing the second layer of the stack that this is all about using those pre-trained foundation models and then customizing those models with your own data and building fully custom generative AI applications around it. So let's talk a bit about customization. Let's say, just to give you an example, you're a manufacturing company and you want to use generative AI to optimize your production lines. Then, of course, it is more beneficial if the model has an understanding of your specific manufacturing processes and your internal documentation. So overall, whatever use case you're working on, you want to apply some form of customization when building generative AI applications, whether that is prompt engineering, so crafting effective prompts to get better results from models, or maybe techniques like fine-tuning, where you actually change the model itself and adapt its behavior. And the good news is, you don't need to be an ML engineer to customize foundation models today. There is 3 different techniques that are important to understand when we talk about foundation model customization. And the first one here is fine-tuning. So with fine-tuning, what we do is we use labeled data sets, and then we send that to the model so the model learns from it, and its parameters are tuned, so the model actually changes. And an example of labeled data could be a prompt, so a question that you would send to the model, and then what would be a high-quality response to that prompt. So that would be the label in that case. Now, if we look at Amazon Bedrock, fine-tuning is very straightforward. All you need to do is you upload your labeled data sets into an S3 bucket, and you point the Bedrock model to that data, and you can start the fine-tuning job just like that. A second customization technique is called Retrieval Augmented Generation, or RAG. And RAG is something you may want to consider when you want the model to have up-to-date information on your organization. So let's say you have an internal knowledge base with data that you want the model to take into account when generating responses, but maybe this knowledge base is changing daily or weekly. Then you may not want to fine-tune your model over and over again. And this is an example where RAG can be very useful. Essentially, at a high level, what you do is that you connect the foundation model to your internal knowledge base. And then when you send a prompt or a question to that model, first that question will be sent to the knowledge base, and there will be a similarity search to fetch relevant context to add to that prompt. And then together, that context and the prompt are sent to the foundation model, which will generate the final response, which is of higher quality, of course, because it has that context of your use case. Now, if you want to try this today or yourself, and you want to build your own RAG applications, you can. There's knowledge bases for Amazon Bedrock, which is a tool in Bedrock that essentially builds that full RAG pipeline for you and makes it super easy for anyone to build RAG-powered applications. And then the last technique that's important to understand when we talk about customization is continued pre-training. And in contrast to fine-tuning, with continued pre-training, we don't use labeled data, we use large amounts of unlabeled data. So think about raw text of internal reports or documentation. And the goal here really is to extend the model's knowledge base with additional and domain-specific data. So we talked about customization, but what if we now think even bigger than customization? Let's imagine foundation models that don't just answer questions and generate text responses, but also actually take actions and perform specific tasks. Now, something like this would usually require writing complex code and orchestration mechanisms between multiple applications. But today, this is something you can do with foundation models as well, which we call agents in that case. So essentially, agents are foundation models that have access to your company-specific APIs and information. And then when sending a task to an agent, it will be able to dynamically decide what actions or what APIs to invoke to fulfill that request. So just to give you an example, let's say you're interacting with your travel agent and you're going to Berlin next weekend, then what you could do is giving some preferences on your travel to this travel agent, and it will be able to make a travel schedule for you, but also perform actions like booking a hotel, scheduling Ubers, or booking restaurants. Now, you can start building your own business-specific agents today with agents for Amazon Bedrock. So this is a tool in Bedrock that allows you to securely connect your foundation models to your company-specific information and APIs. Now, generative AI applications are data-driven applications. Whether you're training your own models, whether you're customizing models with your own data, it always involves your data to improve the performance of these applications. So of course, you want to make sure that data security and security in general is a top priority. Now, if we look at Bedrock, no customer data is used in Bedrock to improve the base models, and we never share customer data with our third-party model providers. Also, customer data is never exposed to the public internet. It never leaves the AWS network, and it's encrypted in transit and at rest. And the Bedrock service supports a variety of compliance standards like HIPAA and GDPR. It's also integrated with our tracking services like CloudWatch, so you can track usage metrics, but also CloudTrail, so you can track API activity and troubleshoot any issues. And the Bedrock service is SOC compliant, which means we have strong controls in place, so this service can be used in any business. Now, deploying AI workloads securely also means that we need to consider the potential of misuse. So think about the bias that these applications and systems can contain, but also the generation of harmful outputs, deepfakes, for example. So we need to find ways to mitigate those risks. And this is, of course, going to require a multi-stakeholder collaboration between policyholders, technology companies, developers, and more. And at AWS, we're committed to contribute to this and develop AI responsibly as well. Now, an important part of making sure the interaction between your applications and your customers are responsible and in line with your company guidelines is by literally placing guardrails on what your foundation models can and cannot return. And this is something you can do in Bedrock with guardrails for Amazon Bedrock, which is actually generally available since yesterday. So essentially, guardrails, as the name says, allows you to literally put safeguards on your generative AI applications. And there's different types of guardrails that you can set up here. But just to give you an example, let's say you're a bank and you want to develop a chatbot for your customers, but you don't want the chatbot to give any investment advice. Then you can set up a deny topic in Bedrock guardrails to prevent that from happening. But there is also options for setting up harmful content filters and also the redaction of any PII data from being generated by your foundation models. So that was the second layer, the middle layer of the stack. Again, all about taking those pre-trained foundation models in Amazon Bedrock, customizing those models with your own data, and then building your own generative AI applications. Now, in the beginning, I mentioned using generative AI for increasing productivity and efficiency as well, like helping us code faster and better, write faster, helping us with brainstorming. And that actually brings us to the top layer of the stack.
Yes, and that is the layer where you're going to find all these applications that we have built, leveraging foundation models, powered by generative AI, but all the work is done for you. You don't have to do anything, you just have to use them. And generative AI has the potential to change every single customer experience that we know. And that can start in your workplace. However, as much as these generative AI applications and chat assistants have been incredibly popular with the consumer market, it has been many, many challenges to roll this out in the workplace. And that is because these chat assistants do not know anything about your business, about your data, about your services, about your operations. So it's been well publicized that many CIOs have completely banned these things in their companies or organizations or sectors. So we looked at that and we thought we need to tackle this. And this is why last year at Reinvent 2023, we released Amazon Q, which you may have seen our preview at the keynote. So for those that didn't catch that, Amazon Q is a new generative AI system that is designed to be safe for work. And it's got all these built-in features that you would expect from AI work colleague, or if I have to be more British about it, an AI workmate. Just don't expect it to bring donuts on a Friday. But other than that, you can get answers very quickly just by using natural language interactions. So you can easily chat, generate text, generate content, take actions, all with an informed understanding of your data repositories and your services and your operations. And one thing that is very important to highlight is that we never, ever train the interactions they have with Q, our models, with that. So you can make sure that all your Amazon Q interactions follow your company standards and policies. And of course, we addressed all those issues. So CIOs, worry not, because Q understands and respects your identities, your roles, and your permissions. So if you don't have access to any information outside of Q, you do not have access to that information through Q. So you cannot try to use Q as a bypass to anything. So Amazon Q comes in two flavors, Amazon Q Business and Amazon Q Developer. Now, if you are a developer working remotely and you're starting to feel lonely or you miss pair programming, then guess what? Amazon Q Developer can be your best new AI nerdy buddy. It's being trained on over 17 years of AWS knowledge, and you can completely transform your developer workflow. and build, run, test, and just help you with your day-to-day stuff by using Amazon Q. Now, it does so much stuff, like you can generate code, you can generate unit tests, it can even pick the right instance to host your application, it can give you best practices and architecture guidance, you can even migrate your legacy code from Java 7 to modern Java, and soon you'll be able to migrate from .NET Framework applications to your cross-platform .NET platform, so that means you can migrate from Windows servers to Linux servers, save you a bit of money there. And you also can use this on the AWS console, but more importantly, maybe for developers, you can use it in the IDE, as you just seen earlier in the keynote. And when you're using the IDE, it understands your code, so you can really use it to support you building your applications. But if you are a business person wondering why developers get all the cool toys, worry not, because you do have Amazon Q Business. And Amazon Q Business has plus 40 built-in connectors that you can connect to applications such as Microsoft 365, Google Drive, Salesforce, Zendesk, even Gmail. So your employees can have tailored conversations, generate content that is specific to your business, and maybe even solve problems that are specific to your business, or take action that is relevant to your business, all within one unified UI experience. Not even necessarily UI, depending on how you're using Amazon Q. And the thing is, if you're an administrator, you can actually ban a topic outright, or you can even use keywords to filter the questions and the answers that come out of it as well, to make sure you're always following compliance. Now, if you're a BI developer or a BI analyst, then guess what? You also get a cool tool, because Amazon Q is built into QuickSight now. Amazon QuickSight is our ML-powered business intelligence service. And with Amazon Q now, you can generate dashboards using natural language queries. You can filter, sort, and keep generating beautiful visualizations that will tell a really good narrative that you can export and show your stakeholders. And if you use Amazon Connect, then guess what? You also get a cool tool. So Amazon Q is now built into Amazon Connect, and oh my God, it does so many things. There's not even time to go into it, so I really encourage you to explore Amazon Q Talks and Amazon Connect throughout the summit. For example, you can generate customer responses. You can generate step-by-step guides to your assistants so they can resolve customer inquiries. You can even synthesize company information in real time and share it with them, with your customers via voice or text, and so much more. So I really encourage, if you use Amazon Connect, explore the talks here at the summit, and also give it a go at the new built-in features using Amazon Q. Right, ready to have a look at Amazon Q? Let's have a very quick tour of it. So we're going to start by using Amazon Q Business. Let's imagine that we connected it to Zendesk, Salesforce, and all that. We're going to open the Amazon Q Business application. We're going to ask, what are the product features that are causing the customers the most problems? It's going to process all the data and then give us top 3 things with links to follow. Next, I want to ask a question about a file I just created. So I'll attach the file to my prompt, ask the question, get a relevant answer. Next, I want Amazon Q to take action. So I'm going to ask, are there any gaps in documentation? It's going to find something. It's going to suggest that we create an issue in Jira. It's going to suggest that we alert our teams on Slack, even update our ServiceNow dashboards, allow us to edit the issue before we even take action. Cool, right? Amazon Q Developer. So we can access Amazon Q Developer in the AWS console. We're going to go there, open Amazon Q, and we're going to build a web app in AWS. But we don't know how to get started. So we ask, how do you build a web app in AWS? It's going to give us a few options to compare, plus links at the bottom for us to follow and get started. Now, if we open this in our IDE, let's say Visual Studio Code, then it understands the code that we got open. So we can ask, what does this application do? And we're going to get a very neat, detailed summary of it. Let's generate some unit tests. So it's going to generate a lot of unit tests relevant to application. Watch our test coverage go through the roof in seconds. Right. Amazon Q in quick sight. So we got beautiful dashboards, and now we got Amazon Q. We're gonna ask, give us the top ads for 2023, and it's gonna generate that beautiful visualization. Now, we want to zoom into one of those ads. So we're gonna pick it, and then it's gonna refresh all those dashboards with that data in context. Now, we can start filtering and sorting. Let's ask to have the ads by spend, or get fancier, and it's gonna keep on generating those beautiful visualizations for us to use or export. So I hope that gives you a little bit of an idea of how Amazon Q can work. And also, going back to our stack, all the options that you have available, no matter who you are or what you intend to do or how much time you want to invest on your generative AI work streams, there is something here for everyone. And we are very committed to give you the best chipsets, the most advanced virtualization, and hypercluster scaling, all that kind of stuff, to make sure that you can jump on the generative AI train that is well and truly running right now.
Yes, exactly. So whether you're at that bottom layer and you really train your own models from scratch with Trainium, Inferentia, Amazon SageMaker, or you're in that middle layer with pre-trained models with Amazon Bedrock and all the tools around it, or that top layer where you get directly that benefit of generative AI with Amazon Q. The key takeaway is that you can actually get started today wherever you are in this journey.
And I do post a lot and write a lot about AI, ML out there, and I get asked this question a lot. How do I get started? And the answer always is, well, it depends, right? Depends on who you are, depends on what you're trying to do. But if you are a tech leader in your business and want to start introducing generative AI in your company, then my advice is the following. First, pick a use case, not just one, a few, and prioritize them. Then, enable your teams with training and give them time to build POCs that align with your use cases. That way, you're bringing everyone together in that journey in an organic way, getting buy-in from the business, because they're going to see business value from your early stages of adoption of generative AI.
Yeah, and we're here to help you design a training plan that addresses your AI ML goals as well. So we have trainings for executives, which is the first QR code. But there is also the AWS Learning Needs Analysis, which is an online assessment that you can take to identify your organization's cloud skill gaps. And then there's AWS Skill Builder as well, which is our online learning platform.
Indeed. And if you are a business leader, please take note of our AWS Generative AI Innovation Center. This is a program that we invested $100 million in, and we are pairing up AI and ML experts at AWS with customers, with partners, to accelerate your generative AI solutions. We already have customers such as Ryanair, Twilio, and many others engaging with this, exploring generative AI applications. And if you are an individual and you want to train in generative AI or AWS in general, then definitely go to skillbuilder.aws. You got over 600 hours of free learning, self-paced, you can do at home, and you can start skilling up today.
And there's also AWS Cloud Quest within Skill Builder, which is a gamified learning experience. So it doesn't only allow you to upskill your AWS cloud skills, but also to recertify your cloud practitioner exam without having to retake the actual exam.
Indeed.
And now we hope you're inspired to explore the potential of generative AI after this session. And remember, there is no better place to start this journey than right here today at the AWS London Summit 2024.
Thank you very, very much for your attention. Please do not forget to leave feedback. Please do not forget to leave feedback. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Very important to us, to our bosses, to AWS. Enjoy the rest of the summit. Enjoy London Summit 2024.